All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Speed of Thought in the Control Room, turning real-time data into faster, smarter decisions. This is a dataPARC webinar with some examples from WR Grace that we'll be able to show you in a little bit. I'm Adam Cooper, sales engineer here with dataPARC, and I'm joined by Jamie Hansen. So a little bit of housekeeping. If you need to ask any questions, feel free to ask them either within the platform, or you can email questions to the email address on the screen. Additionally, if anything comes up afterwards, you're welcome to use our additional resources, whether that's our community forum or our website, datapark.com. So a little bit about the history of dataPARC. The ideas and inklings of it started in 1980 when our founders started thinking about the development of historians and plant information systems. Eventually, our founders, a group of chemical engineers, founded dataPARC in 1997, bringing their decades of plant experience to the company. We've now grown into the company that we are today with customers all around the world and across multiple industries. We have a global presence of over 1,000 customers, and we have a focus on real-time visualization, analytics, and monitoring. So a little bit about our webinars. We have three main types of webinars: dataPARC University, Spotlight Solutions, and Industrial Data Insights. On our YouTube page, available to all, you'll be able to find two of those: Solution Spotlights and Industrial Data Insights. And then within our community forum, you'll find all of our webinars, including those dataPARC University ones. So our agenda for today is we want to talk about speed of thought on the floor, being able to get data at the speed of thought to the people in order to make the best decisions. We'll take a look at operational dashboards and how these can drive action, getting data into operations hands so that it can be utilized. We'll talk about that customer story and some examples from them. And then finally, we'll talk about how we can build that foundation for speed, ending with a Q&A where we'll answer some of your questions. So speed of thought on the floor. Let's talk a little bit about this and what that means. So why does speed matter? Well, first of all, your problems are not going to wait. They exist if they're happening, and it's up to you to be able to identify them and be able to get to them. Every minute you spend doing some other task like searching for data, not being able to communicate, or having to wait for someone else is another minute that problem continues to occur. Slow, disconnected data systems require more time and energy in order to reply, which causes those delays, and also has missed opportunities where you may not be able to address the problem in real time, and then thus the problem continues to languish. So in order to provide that speed, operators need real-time visibility into your data. This allows them to diagnose and act before issues escalate or grow even further. Being able to nip something in the bud when it's beginning to occur is much better than having it go on for quite a while and then having to address it later on. The speed of thought allows for access to begin to see recognition of patterns, and slowly over time that becomes more and more instantaneous and fast. Being able to see those, operators and others will be able to react to situations much more quickly and often have an idea of what possibly to do to address them. These faster insights mean faster troubleshooting, so that they're able to get to things quicker, which reduces downtime or other potential issues and leads to better decisions overall.
How do we get that data into operations hands? So trends, dashboards, and other displays need to be where decisions happen. And when we think about it, quick decisions are made in control rooms, in operator stations, and on the production floor. So now we know that unless you're a state-of-the-art facility, the rearrangement of control rooms or trying to add more screens isn't as simple as it sounds. So in those cases, you can utilize slideshow mode, which automatically cycles through a series of selected displays at your selected frequency that you can choose for one single screen. So slideshow mode is also beneficial to rotate through maybe lesser used displays, but give you continuous visibility to those. It's also important to have the appropriate screens with data readily available for troubleshooting. This requires the proactive creation of troubleshooting displays. This can be multi-trends, centerline displays, Paretos, or even having just TCC Word documents created. Once those displays and documents are configured, you need quick access to them, taking away the search time or questioning if you have the most recent version. Graphic buttons are a great way to connect all of those different displays to one main dashboard. Those buttons can be placed anywhere on the dashboard. As you can see here in this example, they're organized in a line on the bottom, but you can also place those buttons strategically through the display, whether behind tanks or icons that are indicative of further troubleshooting needs. While it's great to have all of these troubleshooting displays readily available before any process issues arise, they can also just be built over time and added to the main dashboard as they're created. So now let's go one step further. These troubleshooting displays provide the most benefit when they're used at the right time. So building a dashboard with the appropriate features to drive that action based on visuals and patterns is important. Some things to consider when building dashboards that drive action is maybe creating role-based layouts. So while containing similar information, a layout for an operator, supervisor, or engineer might be different for the actions they're expected to take. Between each role, the layout should be simple, consistent, and intuitive. So you want to make sure that your eyes are drawn to similar places to see the process inconsistencies quickly and not distracted by unnecessary fluff. The visual indicators should be clear. So limits, gauges, colors, and icons should draw that focus and designed to make you shift from monitoring data to taking action. We're going to now jump into a live display to show some of those optional features that can be used when creating your dashboards. Some of these features you'll notice are visual cues, and then others are a little bit more interactive. So first, for some visual cues on the dashboard. You can do a lot with a simple text box. So here we're showing one tag that has 3 different control types. So first is just a simple color change based on the value. Next, we're showing the background or highlight color change based on that same value. And then third, we're showing a flashing background, again, based on that same value. So all of these can be used to draw attention to a value outside of a given range. For more process-based dashboards, we can also use shapes and color mapping to show when a process or a pump is running or stopped. We intentionally, so that would be this pump green circle versus this pump red square. So we intentionally incorporate a variety of shapes and color options to support users with different visual or color perception needs. The next visual cue, but it's really just a way of looking at data, is the ability to show different aggregates of a singular value. So also beneficial for dashboards without needing to search for different values individually or build different calculations when you want it. So with one tag here on this dashboard, we can see 4 different types of values. We see the current value of that tag. We then see the daily range. So given 24 hours, what's the range of that value? We see the 7-day maximum, so the maximum over the last 7 days, and then a simple 30-day average. So again, when you're building dashboards, you want to see potentially multiple types of data. So here we're able to build in all of those different aggregates of one singular KPI. I mentioned previously to build proactive troubleshooting displays and having those readily available. But you can also use visuals behind some of those buttons that you're linking to drive an operator to select a different file. So again, just based on controls, we can say right now, this is the display that I should be opening to, again, further drive what action I should take. And last on our list here is just a list of, or the option to use clip art images or imported images to create a more representative view of our process flow. So a little bit more than just rectangles and circles. So here we just have a tank that maybe looks exactly like it does in the field. But again, we can combine this with other control tools to help drive action. So here I'm giving myself a warning that I have a low level. So now what action do I need to take? When it comes to some interactive features, we can use WPF binding to have real-time dynamic behavior and controls. So some of the main features we see are the incorporation of checkboxes to control things like visibility or opacity for objects on the screen. So here I can uncheck that visibility, and it's going to hide a portion of my screen, whether they're individual selections or a full group. So visibility can be used to hide objects to remove clutter, or in the inverse of it, to bring otherwise hidden objects to the front of the screen when you need to have additional resources. I'm going to keep that hidden just to keep the screen clean for now. But the other one here is our pipe opacity. So I want to draw your attention to the upper right-hand portion of the screen. And when I uncheck that, you can see that that left pipe went a little more opaque. So we're not seeing it as bright as it was. So this can be used when you're building a dashboard or need to troubleshoot a very specific process where, say, we want to dim the process flow of water, but keep other process flows, maybe like steam, much bolder to make it easier to follow that process stream for troubleshooting. So the other type of control and interactivity that we have would be buttons. We've talked about those a lot. Again, just the ability to link to other displays for quick access, or to run something like script or code can also be attached to those buttons. And then a simple interaction in a display or dashboard is the ability to right-click or double-click on a value. And that value can be part of an object as well. So if I right-click on an object in a trend or in a display, I can, one, get some tag information and get that pop up. I can also choose to trend that specific tag. If I simply double-click on a value in a dashboard, I get a very quick pop-up trend. So a lot of options that we have to, again, interact with those dashboards and get more information out of them at that speed of thought. On the right-hand side of the display, we have some creative features, if you will, that are otherwise, kind of forgotten that we can incorporate into dashboards. So we use these pipes, but things we can do with pipes when we're talking about a process flow would be adding flow arrows in there. And those arrows can be controlled to change direction, change color, or even change speed based on different tags and different values. Next, we can use the trend fill inside of tanks. So rather than just, and again, kind of drawing your eyes to different parts of the screen, rather than just using a simple cylindrical tank that has one level, we could put that trend of a rectangle, that trend fill, inside of there as well. So now, instead of seeing a trend or the need to have a trend on the side, we can just use that trend fill right inside and use that as our tank fill. We can also embed other Park View displays. So whether those are charts like the Pareto you see here, or any other XY plots, we can incorporate those, and centerline displays, incorporate those into dashboards rather than needing to go to another display. And last but not least, we have the ability to record a single MDE value. It could be 1, it could be 5, but we could put in MDE entries here where I can create a new record and save that. So that can be important because if maybe something on the dashboard is driving the action of making a data entry, rather than going to another screen, you can have that singular entry point right on the dashboard and very easy to navigate to. So as we're looking at all of these different features of building dashboards that drive action, they're great. They're great features, and we've only scratched the surface in showing you what some of those options are. But it's important that things like limits or controls that you have behind these visuals are up to date. After a year, you don't want to have 60% of your screen flashing because you've done process changes and process updates. So too much drive for action might cause some inaction. So you want to make sure that the items calling your attention are true and not just becoming background noise.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jamie. So now we're going to talk a little bit about what our customer did, WR Grace, and how they were able to apply some of these techniques at their organization. So initially, some of the pain points that they were experiencing were operators were relying on other people, specifically engineers, for data visibility. They had access to some of their DCS screens and some initial data, but in order to see the broader picture, they were relying on others, which increased the amount of time that it would take before they could even possibly take an action. This led to process issues not being caught early or not being caught in a timely manner. This additional time just added on to how long the issues were occurring before any action could possibly be taken. So with all of this, they needed a fast and intuitive way to see process conditions in real time to empower the operators to be able to take action and hopefully nip these things in the bud fairly quickly. So here are some examples of dashboards that our customer built in order to utilize some of the principles that we've discussed so far. They wanted to build user-friendly dashboards for the control room so that operators would be able to get a broader view of the picture and be able to make some of those faster decisions we've been talking about. There are two main types of dashboards that they built. The first you see there are overviews, which show the entire area. So they can see things like the raw materials, the dilution tanks, reactors, and then the different lines of how those flow from the reactors to tanks afterwards. The other type that they did were unit dashboards. So we can see that these have some trends and some gauges, which highlight specific values for a particular unit that allow someone to go from the overview to drill into a particular unit if there's issues or something they want to investigate. Utilizing some of the principles Jamie talked about, they added visual cues so we can see some gauges and color coding in the unit dashboard. And then if you look on the overview dashboard, those lines that actually go from the reactors to the tanks are coded based off of calculation tags. And so they will show or hide based on whether or not there's active flow from one unit to another, which helps operators and others know exactly what's going on rather than just showing possibilities. Finally, they configured email alerts that take into account limits so that when different values go outside of those limits, they would get automated emails, which allows them to proactively be alerted to when situations are occurring rather than necessarily having to detect those within a display. So in order to make sure that all these wonderful things that they built and that they have were visible, they put up some eight screen displays within the control room. These had a combination of live dashboards, trends, and other systems like cameras in order for them to be able to monitor the process. This allowed operators to use PARC View both for monitoring, being able to look and see how things are going, but also communication. That might be reasons or comments and alarm events or other ways of alerting people to what's going on. This real-time visibility allowed for improved collaboration for the operators with other teams, such as outside vendors or engineers, to ensure that everyone's looking at the same thing and operators have access to all that they need without having to go to other people. So here's a few kind of specific examples. The first one here is a balanced material flow with an effort to avoid waste. So you can see in our before picture, there was a lot of variability. They would often have interruptions that would be hours long. And then these interruptions became disruptions became quite important and would require the full attention of shift leaders and others. Ultimately, this led to waste with the final product, which meant costing the company money. You can see here in the after photo, after utilizing the dashboards and other tools for increased visibility, the company was able to reduce the interruptions to nearly nonstop. And also that helped to reduce the waste of the final product. In their particular case, this led to an ROI of about $7,000 a month, which is real money that the company's saving based on these changes. Another example would be discussions between the vendors and operations. So in our before picture, we can see quite a bit of variability. They have some limits there, and you can see that it's violating those limits quite often. Operations had this experience of alternating between good and bad runs, but didn't really have the data to back it up when meeting with vendors. And so they weren't really able to present their case to have the vendors be able to take action. Once they were able to get trends like this and be able to get access to the data to be able to show it to the vendors, they were able to get the vendors to investigate the issue, which helped reduce the variability. We can see in the after image in the bottom right that with those same set of limits further down in the timeline, they were able to reduce that variability quite a bit and are running their process much more in control. And then we can see here a before and after of different cycles. Before they were implemented some changes, you can see that these cycles were running quite a few, were running over their timelines. And so this was leading to increased time necessary to do the cycles, increased downtime, quite a few issues. So by implementing some changes and that increased visibility, they were able to react faster to deviations. This helped to make sure that problems get addressed relatively promptly, and so that these cycles don't last longer than they need to, and they were more closely adhered to the target, in this case 6 hours. Operators were empowered to identify these issues and discuss them with vendors or with others within the company, which helps address things in a more timely manner. This overall improved communication and accountability helped make sure that shift to shift, but also between the different departments, that the process run more smoothly and these deviations were either eliminated or reduced severely. So lastly, we want to talk a little bit about how to build the foundation for speed within these operational dashboards. So the first point we would stress is maintaining your tags. This includes making sure that you have a consistent naming structure so that they're relatively easy for people to find and to be able to add to dashboards, trends, and other displays, but also making sure that the other information about the tags is up to date. Making sure you have good descriptions, which also helps for searching, making sure the units are correct, that there are good min and maxes for plotting on trends, and also being able to add them to areas so that you know generally where a tag belongs. Second would be aggregates and roll-ups, so different types of statistics on your data, making sure that you have aggregates available, so being able to look at the average over a day, the min or max over a time period, making sure that these aggregates and roll-up data are configured, but also available for use, so that people know that they're available, that they're out there and can be helpful. If you're using a dataPARC system, feel free to contact your ParkView admin or dataPARC support for help setting these up if they're not available already. Next would be golden runs and center lining. Golden runs, ideal runs, or average runs are just a great way to say, hey, in the past, this is a run that we like. We'd like you to try to emulate this as best as possible. Creates a benchmark for operators to be able to try to run to, and also kind of a roadmap for how it was run successfully in the past. The other point that's important about these is making sure that you reevaluate them periodically. What was a golden run a year or two ago may not be a golden run today based on a variety of factors. And lastly, make sure to implement feedback from your operators. Maybe that's changes to your displays that they might want created, or other changes out in the field. They're the ones doing things on the front line in the day-to-day, and oftentimes their suggestions are really helpful for being able to improve your process. And so with that, I think Jamie, you might have a question or two for us.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. So a few questions came in. One is just asking if this is being recorded, if this session is. So yes, the session is being recorded, and it will be put on YouTube and the community forum, typically published by the end of the week. So that's the quick question out of the way. The next question I'll give back to you, Adam, is there was an arrow on the graphic, and that was asked if that's also linked to an alarm or not.
Great question. Yes, so that arrow is being shown based off of dynamic conditions. So in the screen shot that you guys saw, the arrow was pointing up, meaning that we were violating an upper limit, but there is also logic behind it that allows it to point down when it's violating a lower limit, so it's below the lower limit. And then also logic so that it doesn't show at all when you are within your limits. So there's things that we can do behind the scenes to help make sure those arrows are dynamic as well.
Super. And then to follow up on that, where can users find information on how to edit graphics?
Another good question. So there's quite a few places that someone could look in order to find out more about how to edit graphics within dataPARC. Firstly, if you already have ParkView on your system or the graphics designer, there's a help button that will allow you to look at the help manual that helps detail all the different toolbars and buttons and things within it. So that's always a great place to start if you're not sure what a particular button or object does. From there, we have a couple different websites. We have a knowledge base that not only has the help manual, but also different articles about topics that would include things like how to build graphics. And then if you are an existing customer, as we see on the screen, the community forum is a great place. Not only does it allow you to post particular questions that our different employees will answer periodically, but also there are past webinars that include classes and things on how to build graphics and other topics around graphics as well.
Awesome, perfect. And then one more question that we'll get to today, and that is, what is rollup? On that last slide, we mentioned rollup server. Do you want to give a little quick definition on that?
Yeah. Rollup server is one of our server applications that is able to calculate statistics, whether that be mins, max, averages, standard deviations for particular runs or periods of time. So rollup is great for whether it's a run of a particular production, perhaps a batch or a grade run. Being able to calculate statistics over those so that those numbers are available to your various other displays without needing to be calculated on the fly or ad hoc. Having them pre-calculated means you can speed things up, get closer to that speed of thought that we talked about, and be able to do more with the data rather than waiting for it to be processed.
Perfect. All right. So I want to thank everyone for attending this session today. If we didn't get to your question, we will respond to you via email to make sure that you have all of the information you need. So again, I just want to thank you guys for hanging out with us while we talked about all we can do with dashboards.